It all started with a knock on my front door and a smile that didn't quite reach the eyes. That's when I met Karen, the self-proclaimed queen of our HOA. She wasn't just your average nosy neighbor. No, Karen had this way of talking like she ran the entire block, even though my land sits outside the HOA boundaries. Still, that didn't stop her from treating it like her personal project. I thought it was just harmless bossiness at first. I was wrong. A few weeks ago, I noticed something odd: people walking around my property like they owned the place. Families with tents, folding chairs, coolers, even some kids running around like it was summer camp. At first, I thought they had gotten lost or maybe were confused about where they were supposed to be. But nope. Turns out, Karen had sent out a massive group text inviting over 100 people to camp on my land. She told them it was a community retreat, free of charge. Except it wasn't her land to offer. Now, here's the thing Karen didn't. No, I don't just live on this land, I protect it. And not alone. I've got a pack of well-trained guard dogs who treat my property like it's sacred ground. They're friendly with me, sure, but they don't exactly roll out the welcome mat for strangers wandering into their territory unannounced. Especially not the kind who think it's okay to pitch tents next to the barn and build bonfires 10 feet from the chicken coop. So there I was, standing at the edge of my field, watching tents go up, people laughing, and Karen playing host like she'd planned a luxury resort. And just behind me, my dogs were already starting to growl. I had seconds to decide. Do I go in and shut this down peacefully, or let nature take its course? That's when things got really complicated. I took a deep breath, trying to stay calm as I walked toward the crowd. Karen spotted me and waved like we were old friends. "Oh, there you are," she said, like I was the one crashing her party. "Isn't this great? Everyone's so excited to spend the weekend out here in nature." I looked around and saw tents staked into my soil, someone stringing up hammocks between my trees, and a guy trying to set up a grill right next to my storage shed. My jaw tightened, but I kept my voice steady. "Karen, what exactly is going on here?" She gave me that fake laugh, the kind that's more about brushing someone off than actually answering them. "Relax," she said. "It's just a little community bonding time. I figured this land was sitting empty anyway, so why not use it for something good? Nobody's getting hurt." That's when I realized just how deep this ran. Karen didn't ask permission because she thought she didn't need to. Somewhere along the way, she had decided my land was just an extension of the HOA, like it belonged to the neighborhood. But it doesn't. I bought it with my own money. I maintain it. And I have signs up that clearly say private property. This wasn't just an innocent misunderstanding. It was entitlement in its purest form. Behind me, I heard the low rumble of my dogs starting to stir. I've got 5 of them German shepherds, all trained, all loyal. They're not aggressive unless provoked, but they take their jobs seriously. I knew I couldn't let them out with all these people around. But I also couldn't let this continue. I pulled Karen aside, away from the group, and asked her again, "Who gave you permission to do this?" She looked at me like I was the unreasonable one. "We all contribute to the community," she said, with that same condescending tone. "Your land should serve everyone." I didn't say a word. I just stared at her, then looked back at the crowd spreading deeper into my property. And at that moment, I realized something: this wasn't going to end with a polite conversation. I walked away from Karen without saying anything else. There was no point in arguing right then. Too many eyes were on us. And the last thing I needed was her spinning it like I was the bad guy. But inside, I was boiling. This wasn't some harmless mistake. It was a full-blown invasion of my property. And the longer it went on, the worse it would get. As I made my way back toward the house, I noticed one of the campers dragging a heavy cooler across my vegetable patch, completely crushing the rows I'd been tending all summer. Another group had wandered near the barn and was poking around like it was some kind of exhibit. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Every step I took, I found more damaged trampled grass, broken fencing. Someone even tied a hammock to one of my young trees, bending it to the point of snapping. It was chaos dressed up as a neighborhood retreat. My phone buzzed with a message from my neighbor Jake, who lives 2 properties over. He saw the crowd from his second-story window and wanted to know what was going on. I told him the short version, and he responded with, "She's done this before, but never at this scale." That's when it clicked. Karen had a history of overstepping boundaries. Apparently, last year she tried to redecorate the shared entrance road with community funds without asking anyone. Another time, she tried to host a movie night on someone's private lawn. This time, though, she picked the wrong landowner. Meanwhile, my dogs were pacing inside, sensing something wasn't right. They were trained to stay calm unless I gave the signal, but the scent of so many unfamiliar people had them alert. I didn't blame them. I felt the same way. I stood on my back porch and watched as Karen walked through the crowd, greeting people like she was the mayor. Every smile she gave made it harder to stay quiet. But before I could figure out my next move, one of the kids ran up to my porch straight toward the back gate that kept the dogs in. My heart dropped. I shouted for him to stop, but it was too late. The kid's sneakers pounded against the wooden steps, his laughter echoing as he bolted straight for the back gate. The one thing separating my 5 guard dogs from the growing chaos on the lawn. I lunged forward, yelling, "Stop! Don't open that!" But he didn't hear me or didn't care. His little hand reached for the latch, and in that split second, everything slowed down. The gate creaked open, just a crack just enough for the dogs to catch sight of a stranger on their turf. A low bark broke the air like a warning bell. I grabbed the kid's shoulder and pulled him back just in time, slamming the gate shut with my other hand. My heart was pounding. The dogs, already on edge, rushed to the gate, barking like a wall of sound. The kid, wide-eyed now, stared at them in shock. I knelt down, trying to calm both him and myself. "This isn't a playground," I told him gently but firmly. "You can't be back here." That moment, just a second of recklessness, could have changed everything. And when I looked up, Karen was watching from across the field, still. Holding her drink like this was a weekend picnic. No apology, no concern. Just that same smug expression, like she had everything under control. But she didn't. Not even close. More campers were arriving, some dragging gear, others wandering deeper into the woods on my property. Someone had even started playing music from a portable speaker, the bass thumping through the trees like a challenge. And I started noticing trash already collecting in piles. Empty water bottles, snack wrappers. Someone even left a dirty diaper under one of the oaks. It wasn't just trespassing anymore, it was straight-up disrespect. I pulled out my phone and started recording. Not for social media, not yet, but because I knew I'd need proof. Karen clearly wasn't going to clean this up, and the HOA wasn't going to take responsibility either. This was going to fall on my end, lest I did something. Then came the final straw. I heard a loud crashwood splintering. I turned toward the barn and saw a group of people standing by the door. And it was hanging off the hinge. The second I saw the barn door hanging crooked, my stomach dropped. That barn isn't just some old shed, it holds my tools, some expensive equipment, and a few personal things I don't let anyone near. I sprinted across the yard, pushing past confused campers as they backed away from the mess like they had nothing to do with it. But when I reached the door, the real shock hit me. The padlock had been snapped clean off. Not picked. Cut. Someone brought bolt cutters. That meant this wasn't just a careless accident. It was intentional. My tools were scattered everywhere, some missing, and worst of all, the back cabinet, the one I keep locked inside the barn, was Wide open, the generator I use for emergencies. Gone, and a full can of fuel. Also gone. That wasn't just trespassing anymore. That was theft. I spun around, scanning the crowd for Karen, and there she was, sitting comfortably in a fold-out chair like she didn't have a care in the world. I stormed toward her, and before I could even say a word, she smirked. "If something's missing," she said, "maybe it's just misplaced. We've got a lot of people here. Misplaced." I nearly lost it. But before I could respond, someone shouted from the woods behind the barn. "Hey, there's another group setting up near the stream." Another group. I hadn't even noticed them. I raced around the edge of the barn, and sure enough, it's tucked into the trees near the creek that runs along the far edge of my land. Were more tents and a campfire that was way too close to the dry grass. That was when the wind picked up. Panic hit me like a punch. A fire on this land, in these conditions, with people scattered everywhere and no clear emergency plan. It could get out of control fast. And someone had already taken fuel. I ran back toward the house, dialing 911. I didn't want it to come to this, but things were spiraling way past my ability to manage. As I spoke to the dispatcher, I looked back one more time and saw something I hadn't expected: Jake, my neighbor, walking through the crowd with a video camera. I froze for a second, watching.